By sunrise, the whole manor had decided Evelyn was worthless, but no one knew God had already sent proof of her name. The cold stone courtyard held the dawn like a basin of grey light. Servants gathered on the steps. Nobles formed a half-circle. And Evelyn stood alone in the center of it all, her hands folded before her, her eyes fixed on the wet cobblestones. Lady Catherine stepped forward. Her gown swept the ground like a judgment. "You are dismissed from this house," she said. "You are nothing. You have always been nothing." The words landed like stones on Evelyn's chest. She did not raise her eyes. She could not defend herself. She had served this family for 12 years without a single complaint. She had nursed their children. She had mended their clothes. She had kept their secrets. And now they called her nothing. The worst part was not the insult itself. It was the helplessness. She had no proof of her worth. No papers. No name. No one to speak for her. The morning light crept across the stones and touched her worn shoes. She felt the weight of every gaze upon her. And in that moment, she did the only thing she could do. She closed her eyes. And she prayed a prayer without words. Evelyn had not always been invisible. There was a time when she had been seen. She had arrived at the manor as a girl of 14. The housekeeper had taken one look at her thin frame inside. But Evelyn had learned quickly. She learned to read the moods of the household. She learned to disappear into the walls. She learned to serve without being noticed. And she learned to pray. Every morning before the sun rose, she knelt by her small window. The glass was cracked. The frame was warped. But the light that came through it was the same light that fell on the cathedral in the village. She believed that. Old Martha, the cook, had been her only friend. Martha had taught her to read from a worn Bible with a torn leather spine. "You have a good heart," Martha had told her once. "The Lord sees what the nobles cannot." Evelyn had held those words close. She had repeated them on nights when the cold crept through the walls. She had whispered them when Lady Catherine's sharp tongue cut too deep. She had never owned a mirror. She had never owned a portrait. She had never owned anything that proved she existed. But she had owned her faith. And that faith had kept her alive. She had served the manor for 12 years. She had asked for nothing. She had taken nothing. She had given everything. And now they were sending her away with nothing but the dress on her back and a name that no one would remember. The dismissal was meant to be swift. Lady Catherine had ordered Evelyn removed from the grounds before the morning bell. No references. No wages. No goodbye. The other servants watched from the kitchen doorway, their faces pale with helpless guilt. Evelyn gathered her few belongings in a cloth bundle. A change of clothes. A piece of bread. And one thing she had never shown anyone. A small silver locket. It had been hidden beneath the floorboard of her room for 19 years. She had found it as a child, clutched in the hand of a dying woman who had pressed it into her palm and whispered words Evelyn had never fully understood. "Keep it safe," the woman had said. "Your name is inside." Evelyn had never opened it. She had been too afraid. What if the name inside was not her own? What if she opened it and found nothing at all? So she had kept it hidden. She had kept it secret. She had kept it as the one proof that she had ever belonged anywhere. Now she held it in her palm as she stood at the edge of the manor gates. She believed her story was over. She could not know that a single forgotten object, hidden for 19 years, was about to change everything. Evelyn walked for 3 hours before she stopped. The road leading away from the manor was lined with bare trees. The wind cut through her thin dress. She had no destination. No plan. No one waiting for her anywhere in the world. She found a stone wall at the edge of a frozen field and sat down. The bread in her bundle was hard. She broke it with her hands and ate slowly. And then she prayed. "Lord, I do not understand," she whispered. "I served them faithfully. I gave them everything." The wind moved through the dry grass beside her. "And now I have nothing. No home. No name. No future." A bird landed on the wall a few feet away. It watched her with a small black eye. "But you see me. Martha told me that. And I believe it." She pressed her hand to her chest. The locket was warm against her skin. "I believe you have a plan. Even if I cannot see it. Even if I never see it. I believe." The bird tilted its head. Then it flew away. Evelyn stood up. Her legs were tired. Her heart was heavy. But something had shifted inside her. A small flame had been rekindled. She would keep walking. She would keep trusting. She would keep believing that the God who saw her would not abandon her now. Evelyn had walked until the village appeared at the edge of the valley. She had hoped to find work. She had hoped to find shelter. She had hoped to be invisible again. But the village belonged to the manor. And Lady Catherine's word had already reached every door. The innkeeper would not look at her. The baker closed his shutters when she approached. The women at the well turned their backs. She had nowhere to go. And then the carriage arrived. Lady Catherine descended like a storm. Her dress was dark blue silk. Her jewels caught the afternoon light. Her voice carried across the entire square. "You thought you could hide," she said. "You thought you could start a new life?" Evelyn stood frozen. "You are nothing," Lady Catherine said. "You were born nothing. You will die nothing. And no one in this county will ever give you work. I have made certain of it." The words hit Evelyn like a physical blow. She could not breathe. She could not speak. She could only stand there as the entire village watched. But one person in that hall of witnesses had gone completely still. An elderly woman standing at the edge of the crowd. Dressed in black. Leaning on a silver cane. Her eyes fixed on Evelyn's face with an intensity that no one else noticed. What she saw in that face had just shattered 19 years of silence. Night fell hard over the village. Evelyn found shelter beneath the wooden awning of an abandoned stable at the edge of the road. The roof leaked. The wind howled through the gaps in the walls. She had no fire. No blanket. No comfort. She sat in the darkness with her back against the cold stone wall. And she broke. "Lord, where are you?" she cried. Her voice was raw. Her throat burned. "I have served you since I was a child. I have trusted you. I have believed." She pressed her hands to her face. "I have nothing left. No strength. No hope. No reason to keep walking." The wind rattled the loose boards above her. "I am alone. I am forgotten. I am nothing, just as they said." She lowered her hands. Her tears fell onto the dirt floor. "But I will not stop believing in you. Even if I die in this stable. Even if no one ever knows my name. I will not stop." A strange stillness settled over the space. The wind paused. The rats stopped moving in the straw. "Lord, if you still see me," she whispered, "please show me that I am not invisible to you." She waited. The silence stretched. And then she heard it. Footsteps. Slow and deliberate. Coming toward the stable door. The stable door creaked open. Evelyn pressed herself against the wall. Her heart pounded. She had nothing to defend herself with. No weapon. No voice. No escape. A figure stepped into the dim light of the moon. It was the elderly woman from the village square. The one in black. The one with the silver cane. She stood in the doorway and looked at Evelyn for a long moment. Then she spoke. "You have your mother's eyes," she said. "I would know them anywhere." Evelyn could not move. Could not speak. The woman stepped closer. Her cane tapped against the stone floor. "My name is Margaret Winthrop," she said. "I was your mother's governess. I held you when you were born. And I have been searching for you for 19 years. Evelyn's hand went to her throat. To the locket. "Open it," Margaret said softly. "Open it and see." With trembling fingers, Evelyn pressed the tiny clasp. The locket opened for the first time in 19 years. Inside was a miniature portrait. A woman with kind eyes and dark hair. And beneath the portrait, engraved in gold, was a name. Evelyn Winthrop. Not a servant. Not a nameless orphan. An heiress to one of the oldest estates in the county. But the locket was only the beginning. What Margaret now drew from her coat pocket would change not only her life, but the fate of every person in that room. Margaret drew a folded parchment from her coat. The paper was yellowed with age, but the wax seal was intact. The crest of the Winthrop family. A lion and a crown. She placed it in Evelyn's hands. "This is your father's will," Margaret said. "He wrote it the day you were born. He knew he would not live to see you grow. He left everything to you. The estate. The lands. The title." Evelyn stared at the seal. "But Lady Catherine's family took possession," she whispered. "They claimed the land by right of marriage." Margaret's eyes hardened. "They had no right. Your mother was the true heir. And you are her only child. The seal proves it." Dawn broke over the village. The light streamed through the broken roof of the stable. And in that light, Evelyn saw her reflection in the small mirror of the locket. She saw her mother's eyes looking back at her. Word spread like wildfire. By midday, the entire village had gathered in the square. Lady Catherine stood at the center, her face pale. The notary from the county seat had arrived. He read the will aloud. He showed the seal. He confirmed the lineage. Lady Catherine's hands trembled. Her husband looked at the ground. The other nobles who had mocked Evelyn stood in silence. Margaret stepped forward. "Evelyn Winthrop," she said, "rightful heir to the Winthrop estate. You have been found. You have been seen. You have been named." Evelyn stood before them all. Not as a servant. Not as a nobody. But as a daughter. And in that moment, she understood. God had never abandoned her. He had been writing her story all along. Every tear. Every silence. Every prayer whispered into the dark. He had heard them all. The Lord lifts the humble from the dust. He seats them among princes. He places his seal upon their names. And no earthly power can ever erase it. If you have ever been silenced, overlooked, or made to feel invisible, know this: God sees you. He knows your name. And He is writing a story that no one can rewrite. Subscribe and join us as we share more stories of faith, redemption, and the God who never forgets His children. Psalm 113, verses 7 and 8. He raises the poor from the dust and lifts the needy from the ash heap. He seats them with princes, with the princes of His people. Tell us in the comments, how many years did you serve before God showed you that He had never forgotten your name?